My parents humiliated me at my sister's graduation. They joked that I was a mistake compared to my perfect sister, so I shocked them by this. At my sister's graduation, I felt absolutely ashamed of my own parents. They denigrated me in front of everyone, even our closest friends and relatives. This was supposed to be only about Elena, my older sister. She was excited to start her new path because she had recently graduated from college and secured an amazing job. When my parents stood up to speak in her honor, I expected them to make appropriate remarks. She has worked hard to reach this milestone and deserves every bit of credit. I was not surprised when, during their address, they included Elena as one of the greatest blessings. I was old enough by then to recognize that my parents adored Elena more than they loved me. She had always been the more gifted daughter, and my parents would constantly compare me to her. Then my parents began to joke in their speech about how they should have stopped having children after Elena. They argued that secondborns are usually useless. They said that if they only had Elena in their lives, they could have spent more time and effort on her instead of me. Hearing them say such awful things openly and casually while I was sitting right there stunned me. I searched the room, hoping that someone, anybody, would notice how disturbing their statements were. But all I saw were the faces of my relatives laughing along as if this horrible simile were simply light entertainment. Though my parents had often made me feel inferior and useless, this was the first time they had done it openly, leaving no room for me to hide from the fact that in their opinion I simply lacked in comparison to their beautiful daughter Elena. This was not an isolated incident or moment of poor judgment. It reinforced what I had long suspected. I was considered a distant afterglow, whereas my older sister would always be the daughter they adored. Growing up as the second child, I became accustomed to our household's implied preference. It constantly crept into their speech, conduct, and routines. My parents frequently forgot to wish me a happy birthday, and on more than one occasion they were on business travels, leaving me alone. They would never miss Elena's moment. I was amazed at how casually they exposed everything at the graduation ceremony. All of those incidents, as traumatic as they were, had at least remained within the family. I was astonished by how casually my parents disgraced me during their speech at Elena's graduation. My parents had never embarrassed me in front of others, so they had never shown the rest of the extended family how little respect they had for me. What hurt me even more was that no one in my entire family showed displeasure or told my parents how inappropriate this was. Nobody even glanced sympathetically at me after my parents cracked those jokes at my expense. My parents continued to laud Elena, and their tones conveyed a sense of pride that I had never seen directed at me. Then they brazenly announced that they had bought her a graduation present, a brand new automobile, which she had always wanted to buy. With everyone's attention on Elena, who hugged my parents with love and gratitude, the room erupted in applause, laughter, and clapping. The three of them were really content. I felt like an outsider in my own family. The funny thing is that I've never been envious of Elena. We'd always gotten along well enough, and I believe she deserved whatever good fortune came along. But that speech broke me. The truth is that after that awful speech, I addressed my parents. For years I had silently endured their favoritism, scorn, and unpleasant words. I took it all in and convinced myself that if I just tried to be strong and calm instead of irritated, things would get better. But that evening, after the speech and their joke in front of everyone, I had reached a breaking point. I walked up to them as the event was winding down. My voice was calm, but I was trembling. I told them that their speech had been extremely hurtful and humiliating, and I asked them why they felt the need to make jokes about me at such a special occasion. My mother laughed it off and said I was being dramatic. My father told me to stop making everything about myself and to let my sister have her moment. That's when I realized they didn't care at all. They didn't see anything wrong with what they had said. To them, I was always going to be the punchline. I took a deep breath and told them that I was done. I didn't want to be around people who treated me like I was less than. I told them they could continue their perfect family without me in it. Then I turned around and left. I moved out of the house a week later. I had been planning to move out after graduation anyway, but that night gave me the push I needed to do it sooner. I got a job and found a small apartment. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe. I didn't tell anyone in my family where I had gone. I just disappeared. For months, I didn't speak to my parents or anyone else from that side of the family. Elena was the only one who tried to reach out. She sent me a few messages asking if I was okay. But I didn't respond. I needed space. I needed to figure out who I was without their voices in my head all the time. Over time, I started to heal. I made friends, I built a life, and I found peace in the silence. Then, about a year later, I got a call from my aunt. She told me my parents were planning a big family reunion and wanted everyone to come. I told her I wasn't interested. She said she understood, but that I should think about it. That maybe it was time to forgive and move on. I thanked her for the call, but I didn't change my mind. I didn't want to go back to being the family joke. I didn't want to sit at a table with people who laughed while I was being torn apart. A few days after that call, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Elena. In it, she apologized for not speaking up at the graduation, for not defending me, and for benefiting from our parents' favoritism. She said she had never realized how deep the hurt went, and that she missed me. Her words made me cry. She said she wanted to be a part of my life again, on my terms. That letter was the beginning of a new chapter for me. Elena and I started talking again. Slowly, carefully. We met for coffee, we talked about our childhood, and we acknowledged the things that had gone wrong. She never tried to excuse our parents' behavior. She just listened, and that made all the difference. I still haven't spoken to my parents. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe one day I'll be ready to face them again, but right now I'm focusing on the people who see me, who value me, who treat me with respect. I'm building a family of my own, one where no one is a punchline, and I'm finally starting to feel whole.